buena bajar un poquito más.
Okay, so back at it again. I'd kind of like to use this video to explain what it is that I do when I'm opening up a new block, and kind of gear it towards for somebody who maybe doesn't know really much about what's going on in the woods. So anyhow, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by talking about flagging a trail in on a piece of ground, how important I think that is to walk it first. And I'm cutting in the dark now, and the pink ribbons really show up, and so it just takes all the work, all the guesswork out of it for me when I'm cutting into my ribbons. Yeah, so that's an important thing, and I highly recommend it. So I'm getting started on this, and as I said, it's a piece of yard or ground. It's kind of a bench shaped like a piece of pie, and it's got a small non-fish creek on either side of it that come together at the bottom. And they're down in some pretty steep little draws. So what I'm doing, I start at the very bottom at the end of my flag trail, and I am cutting up the left-hand side of the block as you're looking down the hill. And just so a person could get oriented, the yarder landing will be behind me to my right up the hill. So by starting on the left-hand side, I'm starting on the wood that's the furthest away from the yarder, and also by, at the bottom of the hill as well. So as I work my way up the hill on this block and on any piece of ground really, something I try to do is to create the steepest angle that I can work on across the hill. And sometimes that means going straight up and down the hill, but if I can work across the hill it's easier. You lessen the angle, and you also reduce the angle that you're turning the wood as you create the bundles. So in this little segment here, I'm actually working straight up and down the hill because it's quite steep. So the wood that I'm cutting is for the yarder, and they have quite a lot of lift. So the orientation of the woods that I'm putting down straight up and down the hill isn't going to hurt them. And it also allows me to work inside of the cricks on either side, which is important because we have to keep, wood out of, any type of running water, be it fish bearing or not. And it's also important because I try to keep all the wood out of standing timber that I can't get, because the hand fallers will have to come in and get that afterwards. So I try to avoid brushing any standing timber down for their safety and their production as well. So this piece of ground, as you can see, it's fairly steep in places. It's kind of benchy really, but there are places where it rises up pretty sharply. And it also, it's rocky, and that's kind of exacerbated by the fact that it's burned and the soil, the duff is gone. So, the rocks, there are a lot of them, and they're right on the surface. So you really have to be pretty careful when you're cutting, because rocks, a lot of times they roll down the hill and lodge behind a tree right there at ground level, and you can't see them. So cutting low stumps is something else that I really do. It's important from a standpoint of recovery, but it's also important for whoever's following you up, whether it's a shovel or guys on the ground and a rigging crew. Low stumps are also really important for the buncher, because on steeper ground when I'm angled up, if a stump is left high and you don't take it into account, you can swing around and catch it with the upper structure of the carrier. So a lot of what I do is, during the course of a day, is not really putting wood on the ground, but whether it's cutting every piece of brush or trimming up stumps or picking up old growth down wood and orienting it to the lead that you're following to reduce breakage. Those kind of things add to the overall efficiency of the logging operation. And I feel that they are just as important as putting wood on the ground, because it's all part of the same equation of making money logging. And I think that from my perspective, bunchers are so efficient and so productive that you're really falling down the job if you don't take into account these other things that affect other phases of the operation. So I'm working my way up the hill now, and as in this section I'm working right alongside a creek. As I swing around, you can see I'm going to drop down into a little bit of a swale, and that will kind of show a couple things that I think are also important. Working this way in kind of an organized fashion, so I can adjust my travel on the hill, allows me to be more efficient, and kind of adjust how I climb the hills. So if I need to climb it straight up and down, I can. And another thing that I think is really important is protecting my machine and trying to avoid unnecessary wear and tear. And that goes into cutting all the brush, just so you protect your windows and hoses, cutting your stumps low so you're not getting hung up on them, and also using wood on the ground to lessen the impact of rocky ground, moving boulders or going around them when you can, using the head to help you maneuver. So these are all things that I think are important. I think all good operators do them, but again, I was kind of hoping to show some of the things that I think are important for somebody that maybe doesn't have experience and might wonder why some of the things are getting done, but you can see in this video. So I'm going to continue working my way up this hill. I'm getting close to having reached everything that I can, that I planned on. And there's a little fringe on the cricks that I couldn't reach, and there's some wood on the outslope of the truck road above me that was just too loose, too rocky. So when I get back up on the truck road, I'll grab all the wood that I can from the road.